Hey everybody, it's your old pal Waspinator here. I decided to maybe get a little bit more serious on this episode. Normally I like to try to keep things silly and lighthearted. YouTube has so much drama, and I kind of like to parody and mock that drama. Albeit I don't think all of you necessarily get that. But anyway, um, but, but just I find myself a little troubled by a lot of the things I noticed in the human zeitgeist. Well, right off the bat, humans now have two zeitgeists. Um, this informational divide that y'all have got going on is, can an entire species be schizophrenic? I mean, it's very obviously a sign of that, and it's dangerous. And the problem is neither side is actually correct. They're both living in this very distorted reality, and you really need to stop that. It's not healthy. I've known your species for a long time. Part of your problem, perhaps, is that you have such short lives, and your focus is typically very personal, and you're on average you're much more reactionary than you are anticipatory, in how you go about dealing with problems and planning for the future. Whereas transformers like myself have incredibly long potential lifespans if we're not blown up along the way. I myself, it's been close to 2 million years since I was first assembled, and I've spent a good deal of that time watching you creatures crawling up out of the mud and mire to become what you are today. And you're very unique and special, and you're actually very cool. I mean, it's why I'm here. But you have this total self-loathing original sin thing that you can't seem to get rid of. You just keep jumping it around, and the short-sighted, short lifespan thing gives you a terrible, terrible, terrible lack of perspective about what's really happening and what you're doing. Uh, what sparked me wanting to talk about this is there's this new rash of videos going around on YouTube, talking point kind of thing going on, where talking about how these crazy Democrats, they want to get rid of the ice, which is weird since they want to stop global warming. I don't know why they'd want to get rid of ice, but apparently this has something to do with dissolving borders. And I've seen other videos and interviews of people talking about how the world's moving in to this phase of dissolving borders, and I have mixed feelings about that. I mean, yes, technically, as a free roaming animal on your planet, aside from actual physical barriers erected by natural phenomenon like oceans and mountains and deserts, you really should be allowed to go wherever the hell you want. However, human beings have been in a state of war for at least 100,000 years, maybe? Probably more like a million. I mean, going way back before you had buildings and you were planting farms and your agricultural things, and you had any real machines back when all you had were sticks and stones and real basic arrows and equipment, and you're wearing animal skins and stuff like that. Uh, there are basic tribal rivalries and divides that cause splits, that cause the declarations of territories, and those rivalries between territories led to the creation of the concept of borders. And it's all well and good to at this point, all these thousands of years later, think we're going to be able to be enlightened and we can finally get rid of these things. But you can't do it one country or one people at the time. It's the essential problem of communism, kind of, really, too. The entire planet has to be on board with this idea all at once, with little to no dissension. Because in order for such a thing to be able to be achieved, you kind of have to get rid of militaries. And as long as militaries exist, if you decide that, hey, it's just open season, everyone gets to come live here willy nilly, we're not going to keep records or anything like that, or be exclusionary about any sort of criteria about who gets to come here. We're just going to treat it like our country is so awesome and amazing. It's a human right to get to live here. because we're the best. Even but by the way, supremacy movements are bad, very bad. But our country is a human right. Everyone gets to live here. No, none of you see the discrepancy. That there's a little bit of a logical twist there that some people have tied themselves into. No, this is a terribly dumb idea, because when you do, when you decide to just kind of just make your country just wide open like that, is you're inviting opportunistic outsiders to just come and claim your territory, because you've basically made it available, and there are people out there who'd be more than willing to come and have it. It's why it's like, that's why the communist quote unquote countries never got to become communist, because they didn't exist in a vacuum. They were their own little country, and then they're like, we're gonna have the revolution, yay! And then right afterwards, they're still surrounded by all these other countries that are a little nervous about them, because they don't necessarily want like their populace overthrowing them and any of that kind of thing. And so the communists had to keep a military around, and then maybe like that military might actually want to try to and enter the risk game of Earth, and want to spread their ideology and all that kind of stuff. But the essential problem is because they're kept their military around, it creates hierarchies of necessity, and certain personnel and certain things need resources more than just your average everyday guy on the street, and that distorts the entire purpose of everyone getting equal amounts of everything. So yeah. And it's a natural process, and it's just the way it is. And even without communism, any other form of dissolving your national identity, in such a way that you're still going to have to keep a military in order to be able to keep your area from being invaded by assholes. And because you have a military, you're going to have basically a government and a hierarchy around it, and hierarchies distribute goods. And yeah, basically all you've accomplished doing is just changing who the leaders are at the top of the hierarchy, and maybe you've given the hierarchy a brand new jazzy new name. Okay, and it's kind of like it's not Coca-Cola anymore; it's New Coke. It's not America anymore; it's Neo America. It's all dumb. It'd be nice in some fantastic dream world of some Star Trek future where all of humankind can come together and we can have a united planet. And the main reason why it's possible in the Star Trek universe is because they have a fantasy technology that allows them to convert energy directly into matter. Therefore, resources are pretty much meaningless. As long as you can get power, anyone can make anything. It's not even really communism. It's beyond anything like that. But it's fantasy technology. Do you realize how the people who act like 3D printing is a replicator? That's no, not at all the same thing, my friends. That's some high level, like level 5, type 5 civilization kind of stuff right there. And we can't be expecting it to save the world here or ourselves. I mean, it's bad enough that all of you have also like the supremacy thing, and like you're almost over it, guys. And then you had to start bringing it up all the time and telling kids about it, and like how they does no one realize that when you teach a bunch of children about how they have to overcome their white privilege, that what you just did is teach a whole generation of kids that they have privilege? Like maybe you shouldn't have done that. That you're creating white supremacy by trying to fight white supremacy that was pretty much dead and dying and given up on. It's like you need it or something to justify your own stuff. I don't know. Transformers, like we don't have these issues. Like some of us are huge, some of us are small. That like no one lords it over each other or anything like that. Maybe it's because you're stuck with the same paint jobs your whole life. I mean, we're able to like reformat. I could totally choose a different bug and be a totally different color tomorrow, and like it's just casual. You guys, yeah, well, you can't transform either. At least not without surgery. So I don't know. It's just a stupid ramp. I just wish you'd get over yourselves and like start like really considering like just how long you've been around and been doing this thing. Like I said, that this planet has been like it's not like there's peaks and valleys of war. Human beings have been at war with each other the entire time. There are long bouts where two groups have ceased hostilities and might even be engaged with trade in each other, but as by virtue of the fact that they have separate identities still, you know, eh. You probably don't know what I'm saying. Hit like and subscribe.